Hey everybody, today we have a great interview to do. By the way, if we make any mistakes, I edit all that stuff out.
Oh, good.
So we have the awesome Cory Rosen here from down near
Down in Lancaster.
Lancaster, yes, that's where it is. Near the Bible College.
Yep, Lancaster Bible College.
Yep. So usually when we do interviews here, we have to keep them relatively short because we have to pack 5 songs into a half-hour episode. But today, and we have done others where we got more in depth, rewinded back to as far back as they can remember, like 5, 6, and then move our way forward in like little chunks. So let's start from back in the early days of your life, like say 6, 7, and tell us where you're from and things that happened in your life that you can still remember that are significant.
Sure. So I grew up in a small town called Delmar, Delaware. It's on the border of Delaware and Maryland, hence why it's called Delmar, Delaware. And really cool space, really cool town. I remember my mother and my dad were both musicians. My mother was a flautist and a marching bassoonist, believe it or not, in the marching band. And we always had a piano in the house. I would noodle around on that. Mm-hmm. And my dad was a drummer, and he was a local drummer around the place. My dad's dad was a local guitarist around the place, so everyone knew me as Freddie's boy. And actually, funny story, that's the only reason why my mom didn't name me Freddie, because she didn't want my dad's reputation to be attached to me. So she named me Cory.
I see. That makes sense.
Because I could have been Freddie the Third.
Yeah. Yeah.
The earliest things that I remember are my mother taught at the opposing high school that I went to. So whenever my high school called off, I would go straight over there, and she was a science teacher, so I would make all sorts of science stuff, like marble tracks. I don't know if you ever made those marble tracks in high school. And I would, physics stuff, and so I got to dissect a sheep's brain, which is the only time I've ever dissected something in school ever, which was at that high school, and that was disgusting and awesome at the same time.
A sheep's brain.
A sheep's brain, not a frog, not the stereotypical frog. A sheep's brain.
They moved you right up the list. They didn't start at a frog's brain.
Well, she taught like a high school class, so it was like yeah. And then I can keep going from there. From there, I remember I joined the choir at school, and I've always been around music. It's always been a big part of my life. Whether I was in choir at school, I then went to the Baltimore Children's Choir. I got to participate in that. Then I got to do marching band, and then high school we got to do marching band. I got to do musicals. I was in Shrek. I was Shrek.
Wow.
In Shrek the musical. And I was in Beauty and the Beast and other musicals that have long been forgotten about. The Music Man and Once Upon the Mattress. That's the other ones. So from there, everyone in high school is offered the choice of, okay, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Are you going to go to college or trade school, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it was kind of set that Salisbury is like the local city around where I am. Literally 5 minutes away. So my logical path was to go to Salisbury University. However, I wanted to go for music. My mother had passed away, and I wanted to be a scientist like her, but her passing kind of just stuck me away from that. And so I chose to do music instead, and I found to be really inclined towards music because I've been doing music all of my life. And by chance, my youth pastor mentioned to me that there was going to be a college fair at the local Christian college, Salisbury Christian. Mm-hmm. And so I went there, and I looked at all the colleges. There was Cairn, there was, Lancaster Bible College, obviously, Messiah University, other colleges amongst that. And I went over to the Lancaster Bible College table, and I don't know what they do to the recruiters. They're really good. And I was sold. I was going to go to Lancaster Bible College. My grandmother was not for it originally, but then when I pointed out to her that she went to college 6 hours away back in the 60s, she was okay with me going 3 hours away. Yeah. So, and I went to Lancaster, started working on my music composition skills. Did band through there. Did all sorts of other music things. And I graduated in 2021 after the whole pandemic shtick that happened.
Uh-huh.
And I got into the real world. And you want to know how I got introduced to the music scene? This is a really interesting story, actually. One of the times in Lancaster, if you know Lancaster, they have pianos all over the city, which is incredible. Music for Everyone is the organization that does that. Shout out to them. They're really cool. And they have a piano right in the middle of downtown Lancaster, right in the square there.
Yep.
And I was playing there, and this other dude, this homeless dude, playing guitar, trying to get to Philly, is on the other side. I'm like, hey, let's jam out for a little bit. Why not? So we do, and I didn't meet up with him. That was like freshman year of college. Mm-hmm. 4 or 5 years later, he reaches back out to me and said, hey, you should come out to the bar at Talus, the open mic, and let's have some fun. I'm like, okay, sure, let's do it. And that is where I first got introduced to the music scene. And no other means, but just random. I would have never done it. I'm an introvert. I would have never gone out to an open mic at any bar, mind you. I don't drink either, so it was wild. It was really cool. There was really cool musicians, and that was the first time I realized, wow, this scene is incredible. And then it just grew from there. That was, 2021, 2022, and I realized there's a great opportunity up here for music as opposed to Salisbury, Maryland, and I stayed up here. I started meeting other people. I realized, wow, this is a really cool place to be. One of my professors is a Grammy Award-winning artist. He's one of the top clarinetists in the nation, if not the world. Shout out Doris Hoggalati. And she, with my others that have been on Broadway, performed Jean Valjean on from Les Mis, it's just incredible. There's Sight and Sound, there's 1,005 different theaters, there's 1,005 different musicians, there's 1,005 different ways to hear music over in Lancaster, whether it be from York, Hershey, Harrisburg, Reading, even Philly is not that far away.
Yeah.
And so I just got more and more connected, and I was like, somebody should record all this. And that's where the idea for the podcast started.
The story. And I was on that.
Yes, you were.
Episode 134. We're up to 2022 here. And then you went to college. You started the story podcast, got involved with a few movie projects, and now I'm working on my second movie like full-length movie. Awesome.
It's my second film project, first full-length movie, set to be released in theaters sometime soon. Hopefully by the time this comes out, it'll be out there. Talents of the Phoenix, that's what it's called. It's a World War II film. It should be out in theaters.
Wow. See, that's why I have people like this on the show. This dude, how old are you?
I'm 20. I will be 24 September 28th.
24 years old, and listen to the stuff that he is accomplishing already in a world that is so riddled with unforeseen circumstances.
Especially...
And things you cannot control.
Like the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like to just shut down everything.
I do want to ask you some questions here.
Sure.
Who are your 3 biggest influences?
As a musician?
Yep. Musicians or artists?
Let's see. So Elton John is going to be up there. There's no... I don't know what the reason is, but I just get drawn to his music. It's incredible. It's so good. And as a pianist as well, it's like one of the top 3 pianists of all time, in my opinion, worth their salt. Granted, you could argue without his songwriting partner Benny that he'd be little to nothing, but
he's got so many great songs.
They
did them together. Some of them that he did, whatever. But I mean, I could sit here and think I could name 10 songs right now that I grew up with, and I was the thing. I'm so glad that I was born into this world when I was.
And that's the one thing I really don't like, because I missed his last tour, and I was so sad. Granted, I think he might do another one, but
he ain't done yet.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's no way he can. There's no way.
It's too hard to walk away from something you've done your whole life. It's
yeah.
Like when Tom Brady retired, he's like, I got to come back, and he came back and won another Super Bowl.
Yes, I do think Elton John will come back, and when he does, I'm going to make that ticket. I don't care how
It's going to be like $500, Carl.
I don't care.
That's a nosebleed seat, but still, that, you know what song I really gets to me, and I play the video. I love the video. It's "Tiny Dancer."
Yeah, that's
I love that song.
the way
It's so
that
beautiful.
The way that song really came back is
the
incredible.
The way that chorus explodes.
Yeah, the way it explodes. And it's so incredible because that song was not popular when it came out.
No,
it
on the
was,
album it was
it
was a filler song.
Yeah, it was a
Basically.
filler song. And only recently has it become really popular. The first time I heard it, I loved it. But I don't know why it was a filler song. It's great.
Well, some songs that happen, that, you know, they're like, people listen to the album and are like, damn, that's a really good song, and few people collectively think it and call radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, back when albums were released, that's how it was played. There was no computers. There wasn't.
Right.
You had radios and you had TV, and that's what you had. And if you were lucky enough at night to have one of them old AM/FM Philco or Motorola FM radios,
Yeah.
you could sit and listen to the Moondog Show, you know, just different. They were old tube radios,
Right.
and you could pick up stuff from from far away, really far away.
So Elton John is one of them. It's probably my number one. Queen would be another one. I've always grown up with Queen. Bohemian Rhapsody blew me away, as it were.
Look here.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Great eyes.
And Freddie Mercury, what an incredible voice. What's Billy May, the astrophysicist musician? Brian May, yeah, Brian May. Incredible, absolutely incredible. The what's it called? The compositions, the arrangements of what they did, it's so good, and it influenced me much as a composer. Others would have to be, your John Williams, your Hans Zimmer, and then you're like Michael Giacchino's, your film scores of that stuff. Name any iconic movie, and it's probably John Williams or Hans Zimmer. Like, especially of the from like the 70s to 80s afterwards.
Yeah.
It's all them, and rightfully so. They are incredibly talented human beings, and I really do aspire to be to emulate them in that way.
Very cool. Where would you like to see yourself in 3 years, realistically?
3 years.
Knowing all the things that could, like the pen, knowing that the wise man's like, you know what? If it happened once, we're going to get something else. It's just,
Right.
It's inevitable. So, I tell everybody, no matter what happens, even when you can't control the outside things,
You can control yourself.
you can still control your own outcome. And that's what we did here at the Pipeline in 2020. And we won an award from the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame for that
Yeah,
year.
did you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I always do that too.
That's cool. Yeah, I that's something recently that I just figured out about, kind of recently. I started this podcast 2 years ago, not this past April, but the April before. And when I started this podcast, I didn't know about the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame. I've only recently, kind of like, when I figured it out is pretty much when I had Brandon Valentine on the show, to the extent of what they do. And then that next year, last year, I won the award of the, best local music podcast for the Central Pennsylvania. Anyway, back to your question. 3 years from now, where I can logically see myself. So this movie deal that I had, it's pretty much a make or break. If I do really well on it, I'm going to get more opportunities. And so I think I've been doing really well on this movie opportunity that I have with Talented of Phoenix. And I'm really, really excited for everything else they've got going on. They already have stuff in the works that I can hopefully hop onto. And if that's the case, that's where I see myself working on those things. I've got really good connections in the film industry, and I'm working on building that out. Because that's something I feasibly can start making money off of really quickly. And the podcast, I would love to be able to do that full time. but that's a little harder because that's something that's going to build over time.
All right, so I stuck a couple in here. This is a new question here.
Ooh.
Because I saw it on one of those ESPN things where Jay Bayless, who was a center for Duke, college basketball, he has a thing called 94 feet, where he walks down the basketball court with a great, outstanding athlete, basketball player, and he asked him during that walking down there, he asked him like 5 questions.
That's cool.
And one of those questions is called, "What is your favorite food?"
This is a childhood favorite of mine. A childhood favorite of mine, and whenever I describe it, it grosses people out. So, mac and cheese.
Oh yeah.
Add tuna. Add Miracle Whip. And like some bacon bits. And that's it.
Yeah, I'm a big, in fact, I always say that when I'm like, mac and cheese, baked macaroni and cheese. Like, you know,
But I don't like regular mac and cheese. I only like it in this particular way. That's the only way.
You like it baked, or do you just?
Well, I put it in a pot. I put in the cheese mix. I put in the tuna, and that's where I get most people like, ew. And the Miracle Whip. For some reason, people that hate Miracle Whip, but I put in the Miracle Whip, like 3 or 4 dollops of Miracle Whip, and then the 2 cans of tuna, and two boxes of macaroni and cheese with like white cheddar and like 3 cheeses, and then the bacon bits.
So, what you have coming up in the near future?
Some of the things I'm really excited for, like for the podcast, we are starting to move locations. So I'm really excited to do that, and we'll be able to do more stuff kind of akin to this, where you have the interview and then you have a live show afterwards. That was one of the things I really, really wanted to do when I first started, I wouldn't start the podcast until I had this, but until I realized, you just gotta start somewhere. And that is one of the things I'm so super excited for, is to have the 1 hour show and then like 30-minute set. And the twist is that I also get to learn their songs, so I'm up there playing with them. And, we just get to have fun and jam out for 30 minutes or so.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited for that. The Songwriting Studio. This is a show where I grab 3 or 4 other musicians, we stick them in that studio, and we force them, very harshly, mind you, to write a song within an hour. And some of your previous guests, like Addie Grace, Tommy B, have all been on that show. Have you had Alex Warner on the show?
Yeah. Him and Addie Grace were here on the same day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was great. She played first, and then he played, and then they did a couple songs together.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I had a songwriter studio with them, so that's coming out. I've had 8 of those so far. All of them really, running a song in an hour is kind of hard to some people. And, there's always good shows and bad shows. And to this date, I haven't had a bad show of those. And I'm really, really excited for all the music that's going to come out of those. And those will be in production soon. We're working on our first one, Wings of Love, with Ronnie Shank, Ronnie on Saturn, Liam Galliano, and Anthony Pericini. Hopefully to be coming out next month or the month after.
Awesome. So, in closing here, do you have any websites or places you would like to direct folks out there, and there, and there, and there, and there? All yous out there. All you good peoples. We have nothing but good peoples.
Absolutely.
Watches this show.
Yeah, you can head over to CoryRosenProductions.com. That's CoryRosen Productions.com. And that is where you can find all of my projects as a musician, as a film composer, as a podcast host, as anything and everything that I am. You can find that over there, and you can find out a lot of other cool musicians too, because I have a Connect page where I link to all the musicians locally that I know of, and that list is ever expanding. So check that out too.
I want to thank you for coming today.
Of course.
And I have a feeling we'll have you back up again someday. Once you, maybe 2 years from now, because you're going to accomplish a lot of things. I can tell you that right now. I know that, dude.
Thank you, man.
I can see it, and you can see it, And we'll have more on Cory. You can check this out. We'll keep you updated as to when this interview will be posted. I'm looking at probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know for sure, but
Great.
I'm going to move it up and we're going to get this, ram it through our, what do you call, we're going to dispatch it to the front. So anyways, thanks everybody out there, and we'll catch you soon. Thanks, Cory.
Of course.